Welcome to Art Talk. I'm Laura Womack. Jean Mihich is our executive producer, and Jen McHugh is our technical director. She's away tonight, but she will rejoin us next time. Tonight, we're talking with Rob Papp. His dreamy, creamy realism characterizes his oil paintings. Set in rich, neutral backgrounds, his simple subjects glow warmly out at the viewer. His work embodies the adage that artists paint not objects, but light. This year in Phillips Mill's 95th Juried Art Show, Rob's award-winning Reluctant Princess is a seated girl loosely holding a tiara with an unconvinced expression on her face. She appears to be silently asking, "Do I have to?" The effect is clear and efficient, communicating a feeling we all can sympathize with. Rob Papp has a long career with lots of glories, and that's how he's able to achieve these effects. He's exhibited frequently at Phillips Mill's Juried Art Show, twice winning the Patrons Award. He's participated in national and international juried art shows, including the Portrait Society of America and the Oil Painters of America. He's won the Oil Painters of America's Past President's Award, the Portrait Society of America International Portrait Competition Certificate of Merit. He's been a finalist several times in the Art Renewal Center Salon and was a still life finalist in the Artist magazine annual competition. Rob studied at the duCret School of Art in Plainfield, New Jersey. He's an illustrator of countless book and magazine covers, as well as national advertising campaigns. He regularly paints still lifes of food for Cook's Illustrated magazine. Robert Papp, welcome to Art Talk.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thanks all of you in attendance for joining us. We love to have you participate with your questions. Please, as usual, put them in the Q&A so I can find them. And we will include all of your questions tonight. And please do bear with me as I try to work the slides and questions and host all at once without Jen. All right, so let's just get it done and see if we can look at some artwork. And here we go. Can you see that?
I can see.
You can see the artwork?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it should look, we're seeing my full screen, but let's go with it. All right. And we're going to start with process. Rob has carefully produced a series for us here. And so we're going to look at his process for painting. I believe this last year or the year before in the Phillips Mill Juried Art Show. I know it showed elsewhere too.
I can't remember. I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us what we're looking at here.
Well, I still see the Reluctant Princess in the headshot. There you go. Awesome.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. Okay.
So,
This was a couple of years ago or a year ago.
yeah, it was. I think it was 2 years ago, and the subject matter is the title of the painting is "The Christmas Tree Farmer," and the subject matter really is the guy we get our Christmas trees from. So we've been going there for years, and to me, was just this really interesting guy with this big beard, and he just looked like a character. And as an illustrator and also as a fine artist, I'm always looking for just interesting things to paint, whether they be people, an old jacket, or anything. And he struck me as paint worthy, and I thought I'm going to paint him. So as an illustrator, I really rely on photography a lot because you can't ask people to come to your studio and pose, and most of the time in costume or elaborate poses and scenes. So that year when we bought our Christmas tree there, I took my camera and asked him to pose, and he said, "Why do you want to paint me?" Like that. Like he's just this really humble guy and real down to earth, and that's exactly what I want to capture. And I think it comes through in the final painting. So based on photography, I do a sketch, refine it, and then transfer it over to a canvas. And that's what you're seeing here, just a simple pencil sketch with enough guidance for me to start filling in.
Okay. And do you do the drawing freehand, Rob?
Yep, yep. I'll draw it. I'll draw it out. I'll draw it in like bits and pieces and combine things. Very rarely do you get one photograph that is very complete. There's always something that looks better in one photograph than another. So I would probably combine the hands from different photographs and maybe the hat pushed back from a different one and his head maybe tilted a different way. But eventually it all comes together. And so what I do, I start with just a simple um, uh, burnt umber fill-in. I lay everything in, so just to get rid of that stark white of the canvas and start to get some values down. The worst part is having this big giant white canvas staring at you, and you're thinking, every time still, how's this going to work out? So this is a process that just starts throwing some paint down, throwing some value down, very loosely, but accurate enough to take a step forward. And then once I get that, I can start laying color on.
And so when you say value for a layperson like myself, you're talking about lights
Oh,
and darks.
yeah, value is light versus dark. And value is probably, this is what I was taught. Value is probably the most important thing that you could do in a painting. If you get your values right, uh, color is almost secondary because you're really looking for that real uh, relationship between the lights of the paintings, the highlights, and the shadows. And that's what's going to bring out real traditional realism.
I mean, this already looks like his face is really well established.
Yeah, his face is established a little bit more than his shirt or that one hand. So this was like after. Yeah, I'm really bad at taking my process pictures too. So this was in between just the lay-in and then starting to build up some color. But yeah, to me, I look at that face, I go, oh, it's got a lot of work to do.
Okay, to me, it looks like a sepia tone photo. Whoops. Sorry, this is the challenge because it's going the wrong direction when I swipe. Sorry, Robert and everyone. Okay, there we go.
So there's it before starting to add some color to it. And then the next slide shows with I'm starting to put in color and starting to build everything up. But it's helpful once you have the grayscale down. You see certain things. You see the relationship between the lights and the dark. So when I'm adding color, I'm not thinking about the value of the color because the value is already down there. If that makes sense. I'm just starting to really have some fun with all the wrinkles and things like that.
So when you put the color on top of the sepia, is that what it was? I call it
Mm-hmm.
sepia. Is that sepia is coming through the paint color?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll use that as an underpainting, and if it works in the when layering on color, if it works fine, then that's left, and there's a lot of underpainting in a lot of my work coming through.
Okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that.
Mm. Well, as an illustrator, we were always working on deadlines, and we had to paint really fast. And being an oil painter, we learned to paint in thin layers so they would dry fast enough to get through to the deadline. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm not one of these alla prima painters where it's this very heavy impasto kind of work. I build things up in layers and glazes, and this way I could get these nice effects.
So that's interesting. So to me, I think of alla prima. Can you, first of all, can you define that for us?
Oh, alla prima is a technique where you are sitting down and basically painting whatever you're painting in one sitting or one layer of paint, and it's usually characterized by thicker brushwork.
Okay. And I would have thought that I thought that alla prima was very quick.
It's quick, but it's fresher. Like it's the way I paint is called basically an indirect way of painting, where you're layering things on top of each other. And alla prima really is a more of an instant kind of thicker, heavier, brushier technique.
Okay. All right. So tell us about this hand. Hands are difficult, aren't they?
I love painting hands. Hands tell so much of a story, and especially this guy. I mean, look at his fingernails, and these are working man's uh, hands. And I remember when this painting won an award at the Oil Painters of America. I saw the judge's comment, and she said that um, she lives in the country, and there are working people around, and she knew this kind of person. She could tell just by looking at his hands what kind of person he was, and you know, is his character, what he's like, just by that. So that to me was like a really big compliment.
That's lovely. Okay. Here we go.
And that's the final painting.
I mean, that's just extraordinary. I remember seeing that on the wall at Phillips Mill, and it was just such a powerful painting. He's very charming. He's got a little bit of a smile, which I would imagine is hard to capture.
It's a little bit of maybe mischief in his eye, like that.
Yeah.
But he
Did
he
he,
really he really enjoyed it.
what did he say, if you can recall?
He's like just real key, like, looks good, But his wife was just blown away. So she actually wants me to paint him two more times for to get prints made for all their boys. They have three boys, so I think I'll be revisiting Mr. Dimmick again.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Um, all right. I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. And so, Robert, tell me, you do a lot of illustration, you're doing fine art. What is the difference between the two?
Oh, okay. That's a really good question, because there's a difference. Um, uh, well, I'll tell you a story. So when I went to art school, we had our first year classes was like a foundation year. You were taught color theory, um, basic painting skills. There are all kinds of just base foundation things, drawing from the figure, drawing still lifes, drawing people. Um, but we didn't get our electives till the next year, like illustration, watercolor, and things like that. So I remember one time during the first year, I was walking down, I don't know, to lunch or to the car or something, and I passed the illustration studio, and I stuck my head in there, and I saw this insanely amazing painting that the instructor had brought in from his collection. It was an illustration by a guy named James Bama. Now, he went on to be a very, very famous Western artist as well. But this thing was so insanely good that I went in and I took a look at it, and um, just started up a little conversation with the instructor. And he was telling me about illustration, but what struck me, and from that day on I knew I wanted to be an illustrator, was he basically said that the client is hiring you to produce artwork, as opposed to you doing a painting of whatever you wanted and then trying to sell it. So back then I'm like, oh, money's good. I like money. So I just said, illustration, I still get to paint because I just love painting. Um, and that's really where I got the idea that, oh, you can actually make money as an artist.
Without being on spec, which is so uncertain. Yeah,
Right,
as a former
exactly.
freelance writer, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
But I know that a lot of portrait painters, and you're a portrait painter as well, I've heard some talking recently about, how challenging it is because maybe their subjects don't like the results. Um,
Yeah, I think John Singer Sargent said, a portrait is a painting in which there is something wrong with the nose. So even John Singer Sargent is challenged by portraiture because we all have an idea of how we should look, and that's kind of where I think it's interesting that a lot of former illustrators get into portraiture, because throughout those years we all know how to make the subject into something between what it really is and the idyllic version of what it is. So it's a fine line to walk.
Well, it sounds too like maybe Sargent had people critical, some of his subjects were not happy. I
Exactly.
think if his subjects weren't always happy, that's got to be encouraging for anyone.
Exactly.
Okay, we have some questions. Thank you all so much for joining us with your questions. Rashmi George says she's a big fan, or I'm sorry, don't know gender, is a big fan of your still lifes. How do you get those light glow effects on your paintings? For example, the lettuce still life. That's a great question.
That's funny. Well, they're talking about the work I do for Cooks Illustrated. Um, for those of you not familiar with it, it's a cooking magazine. They've been around forever. They have that show on PBS. It used to be hosted by Chris Kimball, who was the original founder of Cooks Illustrated. So I've been doing those for years and years and years, probably more than 15 years. And the biggest challenge of that is we're always working with, there you go, we're always working um, about 6 months in advance because of the production schedule of magazines. That's just how it works. So often I'm trying to find uh, fruits and vegetables, uh, and they're out of season. So lettuce wasn't bad because you could always get lettuce. But for instance, you're trying to do a still life of tomatoes or watermelons in the dead of winter, and it's challenging. But this is a good example of what I like to do. I like to get all the elements, and I just start playing around with them. And I remember vividly with this one that it looks it looks good, it looks glamorous right there, but this was taken as a photograph set up on the kitchen floor because the light at the particular time of day was coming in, and I could set this up and change and move it to capture this really beautiful light that sometimes you have trouble with creating with artificial light. So I'm always open to having my lighting change. Um, at our old house, I remember one of the best places to shoot my still lifes was um, a detached garage, because I don't know why, for some reason, I could set things up there, and the way the light came in and bounced around, it just created this beautiful, warm, glowy kind of thing. So I'm I never have one set thing that I do. I'm always open to different looks. And for lettuce, this particularly worked well with the nice bright sunlight.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so beautiful and dare I say romantic. One falls in love with the humble lettuce in your illustration of it. How, to Rashmi's question, how do you convert from reality, the light on your floor, to, this painting, which it's like the lettuce has an inner glow.
Well, that's what it is. That's where this kind of got, the light was coming in and it bounced around, and it kicked back up into it. And you wouldn't get that kind of feel if there was just light coming, washing over it and then going away. The biggest part of this is that little kickback of light that's coming in to warm everything up.
So, So are you a photographer as well, Rob, to be able to capture that? Yeah.
Yeah, I took photography courses at art school, and that really helped. That was back in the day where we had real film and and cameras, and you go into the dark room yourself and you mix all the smelly chemicals and you develop your film and print them out yourself. And the one thing that our illustration teacher taught us was that photos lie. You see a color photograph, and if you actually compared it with what the subject was, even people, places, things, it wouldn't work there, because there's limitations of film. So when I'm shooting stuff, you know, back in the day, models and stuff for like book covers, I'd shoot black and white, and I'd be working from black and white film, but create that, uh, transfer that into color for the final art, because color lies, but values, the lightness and darkness, don't, and that to me was always more important than color.
Interesting. So you're really combining, the eyes of a photographer and that, which where I gather, value would be also very important there. And that's the foundation of your painting. That's
Yeah, if
really
you
how
look at
it's coming
yeah,
together.
yeah, if you look at some of the great photographers, I mean, or even photographs that people resonate with, a lot of them are black and white photos. And there's just something about that stands out as immediate. And then your eyes and stuff start to fill in the little details and starts to add color or what you think it would be. But that beautifulness of black and white film just it, it almost makes your job easier.
I mean, that makes me think, not to belabor the point, but it makes me think of, when you see a sort of some very modern takes in painting, these crazy colors that people are using for shadow, green in the cheekbones or purple in the landscape. And I guess that really supports what you're saying, that it's the value, not the color, that's helping to orient you.
Exactly. You could be a slave to photography too, but if you have a really good, strong reference piece that's black and white, it you could go anywhere from there.
Yeah. Okay. So on the subject of illustration, friend of the show, Jim Feld asks, how do you break the difference between illustration and fine art? He has over 1,200 published illustrations, but finding that his illustration is creeping into his fine art to the point where it's hard to delineate something as fine art. So is there, from the viewer's perspective, is there a difference?
Um, well, I don't for I can only speak personally for me. I still view it as storytelling. So with illustration, you're telling a story. It's not your story. It's somebody's telling you, tell this story. So you're working to that end that way. But with my fine art, I look at it as I'm still storytelling, but I'm kind of leaving the door open for the viewer to finish the story. I want to get them started and I want to get them to a certain point, but I want people to have room to come to their own conclusions about things. Like, I think you could show the Christmas tree farmer to a lot of different people and you'll get a lot of different responses and theories about him. Oh, he's that, or he's that. No, he's this, he's this. So to me, that's what makes it interesting. I don't want to tell a complete story in my fine art, but I want to leave doors open for the viewer to step in there as well.
Right. We have a lot of questions coming in, which is great. Thank you all so much. Jamie Lemberg says, I love your people portraits, both paintings in the past shows at Phillips Mill, the tree farmer and the little girl. Do you sell any portrait paintings at your studio or at a gallery? On your website, I can only see prints of fruits and vegetables. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's interesting. I was just thinking about that too. I was thinking that I don't offer up prints of my people because I was thinking is there a market for that? I mean, do people really want to hang the Christmas tree farmer on their wall? And I don't know, maybe people do. So I'll have to look into that to offer print stuff like that. But yeah, I take commissions. You know, I'm working on a few portrait commissions now. I'm still trying to get noses correct. Um, but did I answer that, or was there something other than that?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, well, just on the subject of selling portraits, I know that is an issue for artists, but somebody, bought that painting, right? They bought the painting.
Yeah, they did, and some other people were inquiring about that. That was I I varnished the painting a week before I had to send it to offer it up to Phillips Mill. So that was done for that show because I wanted to do something like, I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for Phillips Mill, so I want to do something extra special. So I created that with that in mind. I thought in that space, I thought, oh, that painting, something like that would look really good there, and
Uh,
I was really pleased about that.
That's
But
really lovely. Thank you so much.
as far as selling it, a little part of me was torn because I didn't have it for that long to enjoy it myself, and also I was trying to maybe enter it into a couple more competitions or
Right.
shows.
Jamie clarifies she's asking about paintings, not prints.
Oh, originals.
Right.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's right. So locally, I'm represented by Patricia Hutton in Doylestown, and she has right now, I think, at least two portraits on display there. So yeah, I sell everything.
And in fact, Patricia says that she has Mia
Yep,
at her gallery now. Okay,
that's
great.
right.
Thank you all for those questions. We have a couple more. We'll get back to them, but I think we need to look at some art. Let us, I'm going to come back to that. And I'm definitely having some technical challenges, but you all are so great. And he has a fabulous website. We'll get some more up. Robert, do you want to do your illustration, or you want to look at more Cooks Illustrated?
I'm up for anything. You could since we're on illustration, you could stick with that.
Okay, let's do that. And let's share. And you all are such a terrific audience. I'm trying to get you the prettiest one. There we go. And it's loading for you all. I think that's it. Okay, starting to get the hang of this.
All right.
So you've been doing a lot of Cooks Illustrated, like you have quite the collection of produce in your repertoire, don't you?
Yeah, I think for cooks, I think I've done. Oh, I know I've done a lot of fruit multiple times. Radishes, I think I've done at least twice, maybe three times. Watermelon twice. Uh, you know, there's not that many fruits and vegetables out there.
I mean, this seems like a pretty good gig. Again, regular income. I also think it says a lot that they keep coming back to you, Rob.
Yeah, well, we have a really good relationship. They're wonderful people there. The magazine, if you don't know the magazine, look through it when you come across it. It's a fantastic magazine. The back cover is done by a guy that does like this pen and ink with wash technique. They're just amazing. So yeah, I'm really happy to have this. It's been a good relationship for a long time, and I get to do things like this. I mean, this is who would want to paint something like that?
It's really lovely laid out. You've got the wood tone, the cloth, and I think you're really good at cloth as well. I mean, I'm a textile person, as some people know. I think I'm always amazed when painters are able to capture, the folds. You've got here the buckling on the edge where the hem is, which is just amazing.
See, I'm weird like that because those little things interest me so much. I'll spend time painting like a blue jean, stitching and things like that. I just, you know, I get into that. I find happiness in the little things.
Doesn't it take a lot of your time though, Rob?
Yeah, way too much of my time. But I think that's what I was known for as an illustrator. That's what I'm known for, like as a fine artist too, to that attention to detail. Um, I wish I could paint faster, bigger, more brushy and expressive. But every time I do something, I come back to like, no, I render things. I like that, and I'm happy when something comes out with this. Oh, that one little brush stroke on that wrinkle, and then that's what I go to be happy with myself.
I mean that so I'm an impatient person. I like to charge through things. Did you start patient or is it the reward or is it something that you learned?
I think my work being as it is, um, I know I have to be patient, but it still doesn't make the process any easier. I mean, there's always, I mean, always an ugly stage to my paintings where it's just like, you know, you come to it the next day and you look at what you did the day before. I'm like, oh man, that's really, really bad. But then you have to get through that stage. And eventually things really do come together at the end. I mean, that doesn't mean I haven't wiped off faces of paintings and gessoed over and started over. Oh, I've done plenty of that. But you really have to be patient and trust the process that it's going to bring you results in the end.
Okay, words to live by. Let's talk about these luscious eggs. Oh my goodness. I have to tell you, I love this in particular. The color is beautiful. The eggs glow. It's such a humble food item. And yet it is it's masterful, Rob.
Yeah, I really like painting eggs. Just the simplicity of it, but then you know there's little wrinkles you could add, like little speckles, and then the colors and things like that. I painted a small thing of eggs for the Phillips Mill portfolio pieces, and that was a really nice little painting that sold as well. But yeah, I think eggs are one subject that I could paint just over and over and over again.
I shouldn't say this, but I will tell people that it's really good to get to the show early to look in those portfolio bins. I know people who've beaten me to them. Okay, let's see, here we go. Winter pears, quince. Sorry, it goes in different directions. Yeah, sorry guys. Well, we're going to come out of that because we do have some more questions and I want to honor those. Thank you all so much for that. Oh yeah, we're really racking them up. So let's try to make some progress through this. Okay, anonymous person, what advice do you have for artists that want to achieve your level of mastery and success? Great question.
Keep at it. You know, that's the only thing. I don't think what I do is really that special, but I'm very good at keeping at it. You know, you're gonna mess up. You have to make mistakes. You have to make a lot of mistakes, and you just learn from that. And eventually, you know, you'll develop your own style, whatever it is. I mean, I gravitate towards this kind of stuff that I do, but other people are different. But yeah, you have to make the mistakes. So get them out there as soon as possible, so you don't linger.
That's such great advice. Just get it done
Yeah.
because you're going to make the mistakes anyway. So just grab the bull by the horns. Okay, good. Frank asks, are your illustrations for cooks mostly on the covers or are there others on pages inside?
I just do the covers. Other people do the stuff inside, and they're done in like this pen and ink thing that would just drive me batty. So I'm very thankful to just do the cover illustrations.
Okay. Rhonda Garland says the eggs are tremendous. Subtle color changes, wonderful light, yum. Couldn't agree more. Here's a great question from Paul Mocht, who, and apologies if I get the pronunciations wrong, have you been influenced by Dutch painters of the 17th century?
Well, I think I'm influenced by a lot of things. Um, I love art, so I could go to museums and just look at things forever. But I think a lot of the influence comes from really the illustrators from the golden era. You know, where NCY, Rockwell, um, just those people could paint as well as any master. So I'm really good at taking little things from everything. I'm influenced by a lot of stuff, and I love everything. I mean, I do what I do, but I love abstract art. If it's really good, I can differentiate and take myself out of it. But yeah, I just love art.
Okay. Let's see. Apparently I'm missing one about edges. Let's see. I don't see a question about edges, so to anonymous, please retype your question and we'll get it in for sure. Frank has another question for you. What influenced your decision to go to duCret Art School in Plainfield rather than one of the local Philadelphia art schools?
Oh, I grew up in New Jersey, so so my choices were really I was looking at the big art schools in New York. You know, at that time, the School of Visual Arts was very popular, and a lot of people went there. Um, I didn't know how all this was going to work out, this whole art thing anyway. But so I wanted to kind of stay close to home to get a good first year under my belt to see, where this would lead. So the duCret was only a half hour from where I lived, and I thought they have a good foundation program. I'll learn some stuff and then see from that, and maybe then go to a bigger school or whatever. But it worked out fine because nobody knows the school. It's actually in an old Victorian building that was converted into a school. It was first converted into a school for like I think it was a boys' school, and then when that sold, um, uh, Dudley duCret bought it. He was a very rich patron of the arts, and he thought an art school would work there. And the building's fantastic. I mean, it looks like something out of Harry Potter. To get the woodwork and the stairs and all this really cool thing. So it was a really neat place to go. And the best thing about that was the classes were really tiny, so you really could learn from your instructors. And we just had really good instructors there. So it worked out really nice.
Terrific. Um, Pat Prunuski, she says, not only is your depiction of light gorgeous, I also greatly admire your soft edges, which predominate and give the work lots of glamour and mystery in Pat's opinion. Can you speak a bit about your treatment of edges? There we go. How do you create them and why do you create them in terms of the overall atmosphere you create? Oh, I love this. This is a very painterly question. Thank you,
It is
Pat.
a very painterly question. Well, when I'm thinking about paintings and the subject matter and what it is, I have a subject matter, but I'm really thinking about the light. I'm thinking about how it hits it, where I want it to fall off, how I'm going to create a center of interest, like the the girl, the reluctant princess. If you look at that when you're looking at her face is a little more bright than anything below that face. She's in that white dress, but as the dress goes down, it gets darker. Her feet and her legs are darker than her face. So I'm concentrating everything uh, up top to where I want the viewer to look. And you do that with edges as well. Soft edges recede, they go back, hard edges come at you. And that was one of the things that we really learned in illustration uh, about how to make the viewer look where you want to look.
This is what you were talking about with the darkness more on her legs.
Right. If you look at her face is brighter than her legs, and even as the arms go down, it starts grading down a little bit, so it's a little less bright, a little less bright. So you're I want you to go up to her face, and then your eye could wander down the arm, down here, and then hopefully back up. It's kind of like a triangle composition, and your eye always wants to go towards the top of the triangle.
So you start with her face, which is lighter, and then you
Hmm.
follow, whoops, sorry guys, you follow it around.
Yeah,
Yes, like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's
It's just
lovely.
just and edges are ways to do that. You want whatever you want to be obvious to have sharper, harder edges, and then push everything back and wrap it around with nice soft edges.
Is this a
Like
person you know?
she was a model that I used in illustration years ago. So you know, I've I've done that so long. I've used so many different models that some of them are just really, really good, and some we've stayed in touch with, and just they just have something about them. This was one of them.
And for those of you, I'm sure many of you know this was in Phillips Mill this year. I know, Robert, you wanted to put it in other uh, shows, but it's sold happily.
Yeah, it's actually a really good story about the sale. Um, a husband bought the painting for his wife for their 45th wedding anniversary. So I thought that was really cool. I'm like, all right, well, you're like husband of the year, you win. So,
Can be happy about that sale.
exactly.
Let's take a look. Let's see. I think uh we need Jen back.
Yeah,
Go. This is fabulous.
yeah, that's Mr. Dimmick again. So um, I I'm starting to explore some Western themed art because it's a really strong market for one thing, and the second thing is throughout the years, anytime I did any illustration work, I always gravitated towards those pieces that were costume pieces, um, like Civil War book covers and things like that. And I got known for that. If there was a book cover that took place during the like Revolutionary War or Civil War, oh, get Rob, he's good at costumes and things like that. And my worst jobs were always the jobs where like, it was contemporary kids in like jeans and a t-shirt. And it was just so boring that you just had to go through. There's nothing interesting. So with this kind of stuff, I look at it the same way. These people are like uh, playing a part or in a costume, and it makes it more interesting to paint. And I think people are more interested in escaping reality a little bit.
So was he actually wearing this, or did you compose it from your different elements?
Definitely from different elements. He doesn't have a dog. I added the rifle. I think he was holding the rope, and he was dressed in the majority of that. I think I changed the hat to a bit different, to something a little larger. But that's really what my illustration background has taught me, that if you can't find the right subject matter, you can create it from different elements.
And so how does he feel about being a regular model for you?
I think I think he's well, to give you an example, like last year when we were purchasing our Christmas tree, he had, I think, at least one person say, "I recognize you from the Phillips Mill show," and
Wow.
and he thought that was kind of um, odd.
Yeah, that must be unusual for him. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. Good for him. He's got a second career. Okay, more questions rolling in for you. Love it. Renee Egan, it seems like you like period pieces. They're historical looking, old-fashioned, beautiful figures. We sort of talked about that. George says, what's your workhorse palette of colors? Another good question.
Oh, I keep my palette really, really limited. Like just real like neutral tones. I, when people ask me, what's your favorite color? I say gray, because gray can be anything. Could be this wonderful, warm ochre kind of gray, or it could be this cool Payne's gray kind of look. And it's amazing what you could create with just a limited palette. In fact, I have a palette for something that I'm working on here. And if you could see this, this is called the Frank Riley method of painting. Frank Riley was a illustrator, but more importantly, he was a famous instructor at the Art Students League back in the, oh, it has to be 40s and 50s maybe. But he taught this system where you're basically pre-mixing a lot of your color. You're doing this work before, so that when you sit down and paint, you're grabbing little values of that color to put where they should be on your painting. So it takes a lot of the thought and the mixing out of your process when you're painting your figures or still lifes. It's very interesting, and it helps a lot.
So you have, I guess, the values of each color that you're using
Yeah.
already ready to go. And that is the tidiest palette I've ever seen, Rob.
It's tidy because I had to mix it again a couple of days ago. So there's not much work in it. But basically, you should read like this. Basically, this is a line of flesh right here, skin tone. But then this is also a skin tone line that's a lot more neutral. And then this is also a line of skin tone that's more red. So when I'm painting, I'll basically lay in things with a more neutral color, and then start saying that, oh, the cheeks are a little pinker. And then when you get to really different areas like nostrils or ears, then you could start adding more red to it. And for me, I guess I'm kind of technical like that, where I like a system rather than like a free palette with just everything all mixed up over it. For me, this makes more sense, and this is how I was taught to paint. And if people are interested in that, the guy's name is Frank J. Riley, and there's a few books about the method, and it's just interesting. It'll resonate with some people. With some people, it won't. But for me, it works really nicely. But that's my color palette's very limited.
I think people are going to be looking that up for sure. Um, Okay, how did you get your work into Cooks Illustrated? Also, are you using multiple glazes to achieve those effects? It's just gorgeous.
I started at Cooks back when I actually had an illustration agent, and there was a call. They were looking for people to because the old artist they were using was retiring. So they put out a call, and one of those calls went into my agent that say, "Hey, how would you like to create a sample piece? No pay, just to see. They want to see what you could do under a deadline, under some constraints." And so I remember it was a bunch of tomatoes, and so I did a painting, and initially I wasn't selected. Initially somebody else was selected, and I think after they had the artwork for a little while longer, they started seeing that um, maybe they'd like to choose me to try out for a little longer. So then I was basically on a cover by cover trial for a little while, and I did some nice work in the beginning, and then we just had a relationship ever since.
How long does one of those take?
You know what I say about that? Whatever the deadline is. If I got a job tomorrow and the deadline was next Tuesday, it'll be done. So it might not be the best piece, but it'll be done, and that's another discipline learned.
Okay, interesting. We have another question. What elements go into a painting to help you achieve the emotion of the person you're painting?
Oh, I kind of like the person to be the person. You know, especially how I work during photo shoots and things like that. That the person's never going to be themselves for the first half hour or so. So, but then slowly I start to see who they are, and eventually their character, their feelings come out, and that's what I can see in paint.
So eventually you see it. That's such an interesting thing, Rob. Is it like with I forget the name of the Christmas tree farmer who's so lovely,
Mr. Dimmick.
Mr. Dimmick, with his lovely crinkled corners of his eyes are so, is it in the features, or is there some like little, you know, underlying muscle that's giving the character to these people, or I know artists study anatomy. What is it that's revealing character?
Hmm, that's a good question. I just think it's their trueness coming out eventually. Like posing Mr. Dimmick, I can tell him what to do, but until he really does it himself, here, hold this shovel. Now, him, it was a little different because he uses that shovel, so he knows how to use it. If I gave that shovel to a different person, they wouldn't know how to handle it or hold it, and that would show. So there's a certain truthness to having to paint somebody how they are. And but if you work with them, you will just know, you will see, like, okay, that's how I want Mr. Dimmick to be portrayed. He's strong, he's he's interesting, but there's this thing about him where the viewer can fill in, like, is he mischievous? Is he proud? Is he that kind of thing? So, but I know that is Mr. Dimmick.
That's another part of the observation required of the artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So Frank asks, is oil your primary medium, or do you use other mediums? And Jim also wants to know, have you done watercolor?
I do watercolor. Not. I haven't done watercolor in years, but one of the instructors at our school he was the president of the New Jersey Watercolor Society. The guy was amazing how he could paint. He did stuff on his palette with his finger better than anybody could paint, and then he would just smear it off. It was so interesting. But he taught a system where it's like, here, this isn't that hard. You're all overthinking this. Do this. Lay down a wash. See that? That's good. Now we have more water to it. You get a grade. If you could do that, you could do this. If you could do that, then you could do this. And then start adding texture to it. And pretty soon you had building blocks with all these things that and techniques that he taught, that you could paint whatever you wanted. A tree, a stucco building, brick, dirt, leaves, but all based on these really, really simple things. I think a lot of people with art overthink things.
Rhonda comments about the reluctant princess, the decision to place her feet on the old suitcase. Wow, a wonderful contrast.
Nice, thank you.
Did you make that up?
Well, I love Bouguereau's work, and his like peasant girls and things like that. I noticed they're always barefoot, and I thought this is a good chance to work that into one of my paintings. So yeah, just the contrast between her really, you know, white, clean skin and an old kind of beat up kind of thing. Yeah, contrasts are important in art.
I like contrast too. We have a couple of minutes, and you're all been lovely, and we've talked a lot about illustration. So beyond the Cook's Illustrator, we've got a couple of pictures, and we're going to put those in now. So bear with me one more time as we go back to share screen, and I get the slideshow ready, and we share and resume. No, over here and resume. Share. That did it. So this is a lot of work you have achieved, Rob.
Yeah, I had to give a talk. My wife and I had to give a talk at a book festival somewhere, and I thought we both wanted to show a little overview of work we've done, and this encompasses like 20 some years of an illustration career. In this, you see everything from young adult book covers, romance book covers, children's books, magazines, just everything. And this is actually one of the things I'm most proud of, is that over my career, I got to paint like so many different kind of things, and some of them are really cool. I'm not showing you the stuff I don't like here, but this is an interesting overview of everything.
Yeah, that's quite the range. Okay, let me see if I can advance. No, it goes, it's the wrong way to swipe. On all the way back to the beginning. Let's see. I'm going to escape, folks, and we're going to come back to M is for meow. You're all terrifically patient, and you as well, Rob. There it is. What a cute cat.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm a cat person. We have currently we have two kitties, and so this was a really interesting book to do. You know, children's books are a different animal. You somebody comes to you, a publisher comes to you with the thing, hey, how would you like to do a book? This one, Emmons for me, it's a cat alphabet book. So we go through the alphabet, and there's a different illustration for each letter. And you say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I think, yeah, I'd like to do that, besides working through contracts and budget stuff. And then you realize that you're going to be stuck working on this book for the better part of a year, doing this, because picture books are usually 32 pages, and they take so long to create and do. My wife's an illustrator, and as well as an author. She currently writes and illustrates her own books, but she didn't start out authoring her books. And she was the first of us to do a picture book. And I saw her working on that, and I was like, I'm never, ever, ever going to do that, because I saw the amount of work. But then there's something about a project came along, and I thought it was a decent idea, but I don't know. It's just a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I'm sure. Even this cat has personality and a cute little smile in its eyes.
Yeah, it was a very nice cover. It was, when designing covers the most important part, so you really want to draw people in to pick up the book. And it's just, in one sense, it's a nice graphic image, but then you start seeing the details, and just like you said, he's kind of like a smiley kind of thing. So it's a nice illustration.
Go the other way. Wait, there we had it.
Yeah,
Okay.
these are the kinds of things. I did so many historical young adult fiction books.
I'm sorry, Robert. I'm going to give that up. But you have a terrific website, and we are a little bit over time, and there are two more quick questions. Let's see. Jim says, thanks for the watercolor. Perfect advice. And last question, when you're creating illustrations, do you design where the type will go, or do they tell you where to leave the room, that space?
Half and half. Some of the times they'll say types going here, design around it. Other times they'll say just do what you want. We'll design around that. If it's a big budget author, the name will be really big, and so you're working in little spaces around that. But yeah, half and half. There's no set rule.
Robert Papp, thank you so much for the
Before
tour.
you go, let me tell
Yes.
you one thing behind me here. I'm just doing this. This is an interesting thing. This is similar to the Reluctant Princess. This is going out to a show in Scottsdale, Arizona, to a gallery. They invited artists to create a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of art, and the show will open on 12/12, December 12th. So it's 12/12 on 12/12, and it's kind of gimmicky, but it was a really nice thing to get involved with, and I thought everybody would like to see. That's my latest thing.
Yeah. George says he put words to the thought I had, Leda and the Swan.
Very nice.
And then finally, everyone, you're terrific. Do you teach or offer workshops?
I don't, well, actually, that's not true. My wife and I just started teaching at Moore College of Art and Design in Philadelphia. We both teach an illustration class, but workshops, somebody did ask me if I would start teaching workshops, and I'm seriously thinking about it. So I would announce things on my website. So there you go.
That's terrific. Well, we have lots of really wonderful things coming in, people saying thank you and elegant, and how nice of you to share your work with us and be so gracious,
Cool.
Rob.
Well, if anybody has any additional questions, feel free to email me. It's all on my website. It's robert@robertpapp.com.
That's terrific. And this will, when Jen gets back, she will put the opening and closing credits on this, and we'll put it on the website, and we can enjoy it again. Thank you all for joining us. And we will welcome Jen McHugh, our executive director, back next time. Jean Mahich is our executive producer. And we're taking a short hiatus on Art Talk for the winter, but we'll be back in the new year with more terrific artists. I'm Laura Womack. Thank you again. Good night.